Portugal, a country that became a victim of its own success. In this video, I traveled from the north to the south, interviewing people and going to places to know what is happening in a country that, because it's so good, it's a paradise for foreigners, but it's a nightmare for the locals. Welcome to another video. 600 years ago, the European believed this was the end of the world. I'm sitting on the last piece of land in Europe, literally where the land ends. Today it's a normal place, but that time no one really knew if the earth was flat or round. There was no concrete proof at that time, so this was the end of everything. Then, in the year 1521, Ferdinand Magellan made the first world trip, starting from Portugal, making little stops in Brazil, crossing South America in the Magellan Strait, crossing the whole Pacific Ocean to get to Asia. A stunning trip that no one ever made so far in the humankind. And the most interesting fact, he was Portuguese. What happens is that the Portuguese people were really brave. They proved that the earth was not flat. They sailed all around the globe, conquering a lot of places and discovering a lot of places like Brazil, a lot of countries in Africa and even in Asia. And all of that with sailboats that they made and with roads that they created. That's incredible. Portugal is a tiny country with big people, but I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the present. This country is very cheap for tourists, but very expensive for the locals. This country is welcoming a lot of foreign people, while the young people that live in here are living for another countries. And they also have a very expensive real estate, while they have thousands of houses that are abandoned. Like I said, it's very controversial. So welcome to a controversial video about Portugal. And our journey starts in the extreme south of Portugal. I'll take you to see both sides of this country, the good and the bad. Portugal is a very touristic country. In 2022, they received over 22 million tourists. That's over the double of the Portuguese population, that's 10 million people. People love visiting Portugal because it's a cheap country, very hot country, and very beautiful. A lot of people that come and visit go to the south, which is a very nice place. And a very famous city in the south is Lagos. Look at the pictures of Lagos, for example. Look how nice it is. Of course, I would like to visit the city someday. Lagos is a very beautiful place because they have all these cliffs with all the beaches and very nice sunset. We got really late for the sunset, but still we can see the clouds with all the colors in the sky. Colors are so bright here. They even have a nudism beach over there. It's a very nice place, look at that. Lagos, Albufeira, Faro and Portimão are the main cities in the south. The economy are based in tourism, so they are busy in the summer, but in other seasons they are very empty. It's a great region to make money, but only in the summer. That's when I got to know Julia, to speak about the prices and the minimum wage in that region. O que você trabalha?
Atualmente eu sou estafeta, trabalho com delivery. Média dá para tirar de 1.000 a 1.500, 1.600.
Você acha que um salário mínimo aqui, se você tirar o salário mínimo, daria para você viver uma vida boa?
Não. Primeiro que eu acho que é o problema que tá geral aqui é a questão de casa. Casa até tem, mas tá um preço muito elevado.
E qual o salário ideal que você acharia que é para uma pessoa sobreviver bem aqui?
A partir aí dos 1.300.
1.300, ou seja, quase que o dobro do salário mínimo.
Isso, para viver bem, sim.
1,300 euros. That would be the minimum to live well, but Jornal Público says that more than a half of Portuguese people live with less than 1,000 euros a month, which is curious because many immigrants leave their country for the same reason. They can't make enough money to live well. Just like Brazil. It should be really bad to leave Brazil, a country far, far away, and face the same problem here. That's why I decided to go to this city that's considered a Brazil here in Portugal, Braga, to investigate it closer. And we got to Braga, which is the oldest city in Portugal. This city is 2,000 years old and is known as Rome of Portugal because people from Rome, from the Romanian Empire 2,000 years ago, came and started this city. This city once won the award of best city to live in Portugal. And the location of this city is really good. It's 1 hour away from Porto, 30 minutes away from the nearest beach, and only 1 hour from the National Park Gerês, which is a really beautiful place. Braga is a really calm and quiet place. It feels like a small city, but it's actually a big city. You can do anything in here. And people love to come here because it's a safe place, and to retire because it's a very flat city. It doesn't have uphills and downhills like Lisbon, for example. Anyways, Braga has 200,000 people, and 15,000 of those are Brazilians.
Coisa boa de Braga é que a cidade é extremamente familiar, a cidade é maravilhosa, irmão. Segurança nota 1000. Coisa ruim é emprego, velho. Aqui tem muito emprego, muito trabalho, mas o salário é mínimo, velho. Não tem jeito.
A coisa boa é a francesinha de Braga é a melhor de Portugal. A coisa ruim é o trânsito, que tem as vias rápidas, que é muito ruim de andar por aí, principalmente esse horário, que a cidade cresceu desenfreadamente. Então, para mim, a parte ruim de Braga é o trânsito.
Well, it's been 1 hour I'm walking here in Braga, and I can kind of understand why people come here. It's a very safe place, and it looks like it's very cheap too, cheaper than Lisbon and Porto, and they have good opportunities because at the same time it's a big city. Not only in Braga, but in the whole Portugal, you can notice a problem that's really visible, and it's also controversial in this scenario of expensive rentings: abandoned houses. Simple houses, beautiful houses, in a good location, in a bad location, in the whole country. This problem is huge. There are about 730,000 abandoned houses in Portugal. This is the second country in the whole Europe that has the worst abandoned houses. The first one is Spain, and that's because between the years 1986 and 2007 they built 80,000 houses. That's one house every 5 minutes. And also there is no cost to just leave a house like this one abandoned. So the landlords, they just leave the house like this. And that's very controversial in a country where rentings are so expensive. It's so controversial, this number of abandoned houses in a country with so many expensive rentings. In Porto, where I live, there are also many abandoned houses in the center, not just abandoned, but destroyed. A real apocalyptic scenario right in the center. Wow, man, most interesting is the location of these abandoned houses. Here you have the main bridge of Porto and the whole city center behind me too. And just here in the center, a lot of abandoned houses. It could be like a shopping mall or anything, like something really cool, but it's a lot of abandoned houses here. Well, so let me tell you guys a little bit about Porto. Porto is the 4th biggest city in Portugal, with a population of 240,000 people. This city is so pretty that it's inspiring the books of Harry Potter because of the architecture, the buildings, the universities, and also the clothes that the people from the university wear. Porto is actually really close to the 3rd biggest city in Portugal, which is Vila Nova de Gaia, which is where I live. They are only separated by the river, the Douro River. So behind me is Vila Nova de Gaia, and in front of me is Porto. Another curious fact is that the most beautiful McDonald's in the world is here in Porto. This one that you actually are seeing right now. But looks like Porto is becoming another big city. Many people are coming to live here. I live here. I came because of cheap prices, easy documents, good quality of life, and more. But no one is better to talk about the house prices than a real estate agent.
O mercado português hoje para o imobiliário ele está aquecido pela procura de estrangeiros, que são a maioria hoje no nosso escritório. Praticamente 80% do que tratamos de arrendamento são para estrangeiros. No caso do arrendamento, você coloca nos sites de busca, nos motores de busca aqui de Portugal. No mesmo dia, isso nós temos aqui de exemplo, no mesmo dia você recebe 10, 20 leads de procura, mais ou menos. Então, muitas vezes nós temos que selecionar previamente os candidatos até, porque não dá tempo de levar todos. Em agosto do ano passado, em comparação com o ano, Os arrendamentos em Lisboa e Porto cresceram mais ou menos 35%, 39% o valor, então de um ano para cá. Então existe uma subida de valores porque existe uma procura grande também. Lançamentos aqui, onde são colocados no mercado, os apartamentos menores duram horas, porque coloca como se fosse uma bolsa mesmo. Abre para compra, para fazer reserva e 70% 80% já reservado no mesmo dia.
High prices. This is the biggest problem Portuguese people are facing right now, and this problem is even bigger in Lisbon, Portugal's biggest city and capital. Then that's why I drove all the way back to the south to investigate it. About 300 years ago, Lisbon lived one of the worst disasters that a city can ever live. On the map of tectonic plates, you can see that the African plate is really close to Lisbon. So at 9:30 a.m. on the 1st of November of 1755, two gigantic tectonic plates collided, causing an 8.5 magnitude earthquake. Lisbon then was completely destroyed. People said that the earthquake lasted for around 7 minutes. People got really scared of that moment, so they started escaping from the earthquake, running to open areas of the city like this one. But they didn't even know that the catastrophe was just beginning. In less than 40 minutes, the earthquake caused a huge tsunami. People say that tsunami was so big that people could even feel the waves in Brazil. So imagine the disaster that the tsunami and the earthquake caused here in Lisbon. At that time, Lisbon was one of the most developed cities in the world. But from one day to another, they saw a city that was one of the best ones being completely destroyed. But the disaster didn't stop right there. They were celebrating a religious date on that day. So they had a lot of candles spread on the city. And the earthquake caused those candles to light up a lot of places and cause a fire on the whole city. People say that the fire lasted for around 5 days. And Lisbon, that had around 200,000 people, saw 30,000 of those people dying in one single day. Like I said before, Portuguese people are brave. They took a couple of years, but they renewed the whole city. And a city that had really medieval, narrow streets, now was a city that had large streets and much better buildings for earthquakes and fires. They even made an earthquake simulator. So when they were constructing a new building, they were putting soldiers all around the building to march to cause some mini earthquake so they could see if that building was good or not against earthquakes. Portuguese people are genius. And through the years, Lisbon became this. A beautiful city surrounded by hills, with the longest bridge in Europe, castles all around, parks, nature, stunning city. The district of Lisbon today has over 2.8 million people, and it concentrates big companies, industries, people, and also problems. Look around me, people everywhere. Lisbon is a very incredible city, and that brings a lot of people, and a lot of people increases the value of the renting and food and everything in this city. People say that the renting in Lisbon duplicated in the last 10 years. That's the biggest increase in the whole Europe. And also people say that Lisbon is the third most expensive city in the whole world. That's when you count how much the city is versus how much people earn in this city. But what do Portuguese people think about that? That's when I got to know this guy, to show me what he thinks about the situation and also open his house for me to see how it looks like to live in Lisbon.
Então, isto vai ser um preço especial porque nós, pronto, alugamos a casa toda, nós pagamos 375 aqui, eu do outro lado, e aquele que é um quarto maior, pronto, é 450, isso no total dá 1200. Sim. Quartos aqui na Alameda são 450, 500, eu já cheguei a pagar 600 euros por um quarto tipo grande na altura, é muito caro. Mas para pessoas que vêm de fora tipo, e tenham trabalhos remotos, seria chill, seria fantástico. Tipo...
Muito obrigado por abrir sua casa.
Claro.
Muito obrigado, valeu. Alright, so far I interviewed people that live in here, but there are some people that come live here, they don't like this place, and they end up going back to their country. This is what happened to my cousin. How was like your life in Portugal? Why did you go back to Brazil?
I came back to Brazil because I thought that the relation between the rent and what we earn in Portugal, it's not worthy enough.
With your salary in Portugal, could you save money? Could you live a good life?
I couldn't save any money. It was just an ordinary life.
Would you go back to Portugal nowadays to work for Portuguese people?
No, I wouldn't. Not at all.
So far, we notice that the problem is clearly on the minimum wage and high prices. But what if you live in a small city? Small cities tend to be cheaper. That's why I travel to this city outside the tourist route to check this out. That's why I chose Pombal. Yeah, it's a very tiny city in the middle of Portugal that you probably never heard of and probably never gonna visit. It's literally in the middle of Portugal and no one comes here. Pombal has only 16,000 people and looks like the life here is very simple. So let's explore. There are many small towns like this in Portugal. That's because the Portuguese population concentrates on the coast. The big cities like Lisbon, Porto, Lagos and more, they are all by the coast. Look how interesting, I'm walking Pombal and you have this place that is for people to clean their shoes, and also if you died in Pombal, they put your name here to everyone to see like someone died just in Pombal. It's very interesting. So Pombal is a very tiny city, so house prices here, the real estate is really cheap too. 147 euros, 125, 194, really cheap prices. So the renting prices here must be really cheap too. But it's a very tiny city. Prices here are cheap, but this is a small town and you can't really find many opportunities here. But let me tell you something, small or big cities, here in Portugal you feel really safe everywhere. So here is a good opportunity to talk how safe Portugal is. And also Portugal is the 7th safest country in the world. So you can really see how safe this country is. And also in 2021, Portugal had less than 85 homicides. If you compare it to my country, Brazil, in the same year we got 45,000 homicides. Of course, Brazil has 21 times the population of Portugal, but the numbers you can't really compare. It's way too much in Brazil. And the most dangerous cities here in Portugal would be Lisbon, Porto and Setúbal, which are the biggest cities. But seriously talking now, Portugal is a really, really safe place. That's why a lot of people come here. A safe country, well located, with so many natural paradise and cheap, of course would attract many foreigners. And that's why Portugal became a victim of its own success. But we can also conclude that after 2020, the whole world became expensive. Not only Portugal, but I guess that's life. These are things that will never change. Prices will increase, politicians will do bad things, you will get old. I guess the most important is to enjoy here and the now. So this was a controversial video about Portugal, and see you elsewhere.
Add it up.